In 2006, a very strange story spread about a person who was a teacher employee at a school. And for some reason he decided to move from the city to another place. Of course, the distance was from the city to that place. Approximately 7 hours. At first the situation was very normal and there was nothing strange about it. He got into his car and went to the place where he wanted to study. But the first problem, she began to face this person, because he wasn't the keeper of the way. So he decided to use someone who was well understood on the way and had also visited that place more than once. The school road was in a cut-off location and was expected to be around. The road was flooded. It was very terrifying and scary. It's very likely if you go alone, you'll get lost. After they got to school, I got a few problems in management. The school principal refused to enter the person except with the permission of the old school. So, he had to go back to the city again to get his papers and permission and then return to that school. He got into his car and took 7 hours to get to the city. But this time he did not go alone. He decided to take his brother and uncle's boy. But alas, the biggest mistake they made was that none of them knew the way. They were relying on signals only. While they were on the road, the distance was great. Gasoline concluded. So they decided to get out of the car and start looking for any station that would be close to them. And they walk. Suddenly, they cured a stranger. He was standing by the side of the road. The person was kind of weird. So much so that he wasn't moving. They were between supporters and opponents. The person who wants to ask asks. The person who refused. After a long discussion, they all decided and agreed that they would cheer up and ask that person. After they arrived and asked him, answer them. He told them at a station 20 kilometers away from here in a small village. But the strange and shocking thing, the first they got to the village, it was a shock. The village was an abandoned village. The village is depopulated. Broken buildings. Even the station wasn't running. And the strangest thing of all this, the same person they asked, he was standing at the same station. When they saw him, they were even more shocked. Because that person originally didn't have any means of transportation to let him get there before them. Maybe that person wasn't human. On the first day, their situation was very difficult. But what you can say is that it was the hardest thing. Because they had roast food and roast water in the car. They said we could live as long as possible with the supplies we have. LSO they decided that they would stay in this village for how many days and start a fire and try to attract the attention of anyone passing by this village. But to no avail. Despite their bad luck, it was not in anyone who lived in the area where they are. And in the same period that they were sitting, the teacher says that he was hearing very strange sounds. Just his description. The voices were not human voices. So much so that the teacher's brother tolerated this thing and began to obsess even more. Everything he was trying to focus on. He has more hallucinations. He fought with his brother and uncle's son. It was the place where they were. It's a mystery. One day they were walking through the village in the hope that they would show anyone who might criticize them. But during their search and while walking, they noticed that in the human bones were scattered on the ground. Fear and terror began to enter their hearts even more. They said as long as it was in human bones, it means that in more than one victim or more than one person died before us in this place. But of all the situations they've been in, teacher says that in a situation that passed for them it was very difficult. He says while we were sitting in the tent, in the sounds of our calling, strange sounds and never human voices. He says what we cared about and we tried to ignore. But everything we were ignoring. The more difficult the situations were, the more difficult. He says she was a little girl. You come around the tent and you come in here. Look at us and let go. And she was coming in from time to time, especially in the night period. And here we are absolutely sure that we are in a haunted place. Because usually phenomena and strange things happen only in haunted places. The situation seemed to be getting difficult. Hour after hour. The biggest problem among these problems is that the food and supplies that they have are starting to be thrown away. They decided that they would get out of the tent and head somewhere else. According to the teacher, the situation was once difficult. So much so that they took a whole day walking on their legs. But with time, fortunately, they met the right person who could criticize them. And the person stood up and said to him that we had come to the place that we had set up and told him everything that had become together with them. The person began to believe, especially after he saw their condition. After that he gave them food and drink. It turns out that this person has a house on the mainland and understands everything in the area. He started asking them, "Are you and were you exactly?" They told him everything and explained to him that we got lost among the mountains and valleys and entered a haunted village. The man was shocked. And he said to them, "You're already in the first place, and you're here?" The place where they put it is called Wadi al-Jinn, or the village of Wadi al-Jinn. A very scary place. A very scary place. What was originally supposed to have been done was never done. So the man got up and took them to the hospital because their condition was very difficult.